This episode of The Tripod is dedicated to Gabriel Downes, beloved husband, father and grandfather. He'll be sorely missed. Rest in peace, Dad.
Record there. Oh, wait.
I did.
Okay, nice one. A1.
And I can take it away just as quick if you need that.
Take me away from the city.
Leave me to where? What a song.
What a tune.
What a tune. Oh, man. Wow. Bagatelle.
Right song. Bagatelle.
Okay, let's start the episode.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 55 of The Tripod. My name is Sean O'Riordan. I am the youngest host of this podcast. Don't you ever forget that. I am joined once again. Man, we can't even get through the intro.
Sorry, apologies.
The people watching the video will understand why I'm laughing. I'm joined once again by the two lovely co-hosts, Ronan, High Definition, and Kevin, the most sensitive guy in Ireland, Hennessy. How's it going?
Sensitive?
Pleasure to be here, Sean.
What do you mean?
Oh, Kev, you look lovely again. You look like the youngest host, to be fair.
He does.
Yeah.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah, I'm still wearing my teacher clothes, so I definitely don't.
You look like a teacher. You look like a woodwork teacher.
Thanks.
You know what I mean?
I try.
Like if someone were to say, I want to dress up as a woodwork teacher for Halloween or something, bang. Have you got chinos on? Yes, look at him.
Oh,
He is a
Lord
woodwork
above.
teacher.
He is a woodwork
Maybe
teacher,
chinos.
isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He loves working
That's
net wood.
the woodwork teacher attire. Chinos and shirts, or
Yeah,
chinos
yeah.
and jumpers, and that's it. That's all we
Yeah.
wear.
Brown belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Brown
of course.
belts and
Yeah.
brown shoes. Yeah.
Class.
Are you okay, Ron?
Just sanitizing before we begin.
Oh, it's essential.
Very good.
It's
Very
important
good.
when you
Stay
meet
safe.
people like this to wear a mask, which we're not doing, and to
Actually,
sanitize.
Should I social distance a bit and move back? Or
Yeah, well, we all
Don't just not Kevin, 'cause he'll.
too close, Ron? Too close.
Wow, that's some close up there. Just flick those eyebrows again.
Mm.
Wow. Wow.
Yummy.
That's a
Um,
careful
that.
there, but big boy. It's dangerous.
Oh, ooh, flirty language. Ooh.
Gentlemen, how
lads.
was the week? How
Ladies first.
only don't all rush in there.
I shot another wedding.
Yes.
Or did
Oh
I?
God, that's
Was
3 in a
that
row,
last
Ronan,
night?
is it?
Yeah, that's a hat trick now. Yeah,
Wow,
that's
congratulations.
and I'm on the edits, and I'm all over it, and I'm living the dream. And I was up the mountains again as well.
Well
And
done. You've been up more mountains than I have. That's not allowed.
I've been up mountains. I haven't been on top of mountains.
Yeah.
I've been
Massive difference.
in the vicinity of mountain peaks,
Mhm.
very close to the road because it was lashing. So I only got out
Mm.
of the car for about 10 minutes and got absolutely soaked. I was like, it's
Yeah.
not worth it. I hate my life. I'm done.
Yesterday evening was a wet one.
Like
This is
shocking.
Fuzz.
Friday, the 21st of May. So everyone will remember the Thursday of this week. So it would have been last Thursday when you're listening to this. It was a horrendous day.
Shocking.
I got out. I was going for a bit
Horrendous.
of a stroll, a bit of a hike, just exploring some.
It's probably
waterfalls.
25 kilometers or something.
No,
was
it
it
wasn't. It was very short. Only about 5 or 6 kilometers round hike. So it was grand. Nice. It was because it was teeming rain.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was drenched to the skin. But I was like, do you know what? At this stage, I'm so soaked. I'm just gonna keep going.
I love that. You know that. You know when it gets to that point where
Yeah,
it's like, I
just
literally
accept.
can't get wetter. So,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just accept that you're just
Yeah.
soaked wet, so you just
Yeah.
keep walking. Couldn't take my
Class.
camera out or anything, any photos, but it was nice to get out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Nearly catch pneumonia. Oh,
Happy days.
Kev, how was your week?
Week was good. Yeah. Like I didn't do any shooting the week, but I
Mm.
did obviously, as you guys saw. David Keenan reached out to me. Would have been Tuesday, just gone, and asked could he use my photo of my lovely friend Gar, who passed away in just before Christmas, as the cover for his latest single called "His Name Was Gar Kane." Honestly, the most humbling and proudest moment of my photography career to date. Obviously, look, I've always wanted a single cover. Like it's been a goal of mine for as long as I can remember being a photographer. But for it to happen in that way, for an artist who I've loved for a very long time. Like I've been a big fan of David since he sang a song called El Paso in a Taxi up in Dundalk that was recorded and put on YouTube. So I've loved David for years.
Yeah.
And then I've obviously mates with Gar for a very long time. When Gar joined David's band, I was like, oh man, I know him. Like he's amazing. Like this is going to be really good for you, you know. And then so obviously I took that shot at Electric Picnic when Gar was playing at the main stage with David's band, and it was another moment. And like even like before Gar's passing, that was like my proudest shot to date because of the story, because of the Gar's journey and all of that. And obviously since he's passed, it's become quite a bit more special to me. But like when Dave reached out, I got really emotional. Like when he asked me, I was just like, absolutely, like, of course, like
of course you would.
It's my biggest honor, David. Thank you. And he was just like, it captured Gar's life perfectly, and I was just like, thank you so much. And the song is gorgeous as well. Like it's a beautiful song.
Yeah,
so
that's for a great cause. I saw it on Twitter and I saw it on Instagram, and I was thinking, God, that literally, like, if you didn't have to take another photo for the rest of your life, that would be worth it alone. Like, you know, just to get that, like,
and like I wouldn't mind it. I had been chatting to Gar prior to the gig, like that day, the day before. And it was like, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait for a chat and all that. We had a great chat and a big hug and all that jazz. And I wasn't planning on taking a photo of him, you know, because I was just planning on having a chat. Yeah. And just was like, come here, Gar, I got to take a photo before you walk on. Like, and yeah, it was class.
And it's a stunning image, like, regardless.
It's a cracker. It captures him so well. Like, you know what I mean?
It's so perfect. Like,
so that was my day, week, and year made so far with that. So look, if you can, the link is in my bio on Instagram, people. You can go and download the song. It's only €1, or you can give 5 or 10 or whatever, and all the money is going towards Gar's family. So straight.
We'll stick it in the show notes in the description on YouTube as well, so everyone can see it.
David's taking no money for that, or you know, everything's going to Caroline and the kids. So
if you can spare a few quid, like, look at it this way: if you pulled into the coffee or pulled into the petrol shop there or petrol station, fill the car with petrol, and you know where you get that takeaway coffee, don't get takeaway coffee. Put €2 or €3 towards a single. It won't kill you for a week. Do you know what I mean?
Thanks, lads.
Something like that. Yeah. Well done, Kev.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Proud of you, Kev.
Very proud of you. Yeah.
Aww.
Genuinely. That's class.
Yeah,
that's unreal.
It was awesome.
That's unreal.
Shawnee, your week.
I shot, and have we recorded since I shot that engagement in Dingle?
Nope.
I'm losing track of my days. I had one of the best weekends ever last weekend with Mark O'Brien. We had a fantastic weekend.
Class.
So I recorded this podcast on the Friday night.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he actually, do you know what? We have to address something. That man is getting called out more this podcast than Cara Finnegan did. So we replace it? Oh no, we can't replace it.
No, Mark O'Brien is the CFO of the Tripod.
Okay, that makes sense.
Connor Finnegan is the CEO. Yeah.
Okay. I'm quite happy with that. I recorded this podcast on last Friday night and went down to Kerry on Saturday evening. Me and Mark went to Dingle. We shot in Ballydavidhead. We got soaked with rain, but you know what? It was fantastic, moody conditions. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Mark's photo from there.
Stunning, Marco. Yeah,
and
stunning.
You probably won't see my three sisters image now because it's not half as good as that. So thanks, Mark.
Post it in like 7 months or something.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. But just to have the crack with Marco, and like we even got up for sunrise Sunday morning. It was a bus. It was minty foggy. It wasn't so. But anyway, long story short, we class weekend, and then we had an engagement shoot in Dingle. And this poor lad, Daryl,
congrats to two of you.
Not sure. Yeah. Mark said yes, by the way.
Yes.
If Daryl, I'm not sure if Daryl listens to the podcast, but
definitely does.
Great guy, and Elena, his now fiance,
she listens too.
Yeah, he texted me in January about this. Like, he's been waiting to propose since January. The poor fella, and lockdown after lockdown has just stopped him. And
okay.
Yeah, so he wanted to do it somewhere special. So he sent me a photo of one of my particular images from Dunmore Head. He said, "This is where I want to do it." I said, "Perfect." So we arranged a plan, and I said, basically, "Right, Darryl, I will stand 20 yards back from that particular platform, we'll call our patch of grass, where I want you to propose to Elena." He said, "Cool." Whatever. We were meant to meet at 8 o'clock. we were coming back, and I was coming back to the road around 7:20, I suppose, coming through Dingle, kind of just before Dingle. And Darryl texts this man, he says, we're not going to be able to wait. I was like, okay, I'm on the way, I'll be early as well. So about 15 minutes later, I arrived in Dunmore Head, and got out of the car, put on my boots. I saw him in the car with Lena. I gave him a snaky thumbs up to let him know I'm here, and I proceeded to walk up Dunmore Head up the hill. And he texted, he said, I just got to do this now. And I thought, it would take him 15, 20 minutes to get up. Because Dunmore Hill's a bit of a pull, like. Lads, I turned around, I adjusted the camera out of the bag, and next thing I see him, I was like, oh man, he must have ran up the hill.
Jesus Christ.
So I was like,
the adrenaline, I'd say, just got him over. He was dragging her up behind them. Like.
Literally. So Mark was kind of, we were both trying to play it cool, like, because we didn't want to blow the cover, like, so we were like the tourists, like, and Mark was kind of a bit up with. I was like, Mark? And he didn't. I was like, Mark? He didn't. I was like, Mark! He's fucking coming! And Mark had the 70 to 200 and I 24 to 70, and I was kind of telling him, get the fucking on your legs. So she's on the way, and he just heard, he went, oh shit. So yeah, long story short, it happened. Proposal happened. It was fantastic.
Did she say yes?
Yes, she did. She did. They even wanted a group photo in the end. It was fair funny. And Paul Connor was there. Adventures with P. You should follow Paul on Instagram. He shot a video of it.
Was he there
really,
for?
Really cool.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, he texted me. Yeah, so he knew Darryl, so he said, "Look, can I come along and shoot a video?" And I was like, "Yeah, no bother." And it turned out fantastic.
Aww.
And it actually worked out perfect that Darryl couldn't wait, because it gave us time to go shoot sunset, and we got a lovely sunset and by the Ryan's Daughter Schoolhouse in Dingle. So yeah, I was pretty tired Monday morning, but it was fantastic. So I had a great week. Yeah, it's all
Deadly.
good. All good. Yeah, it was really good now. So thank you, Mark O'Brien. As usual, you are one of the best hosts. You probably are the best host I've ever experienced, to be honest. You're a legend. Okay, shall we get into the episode? We have a very exciting episode because we have a new segment. On the tripod. And this is something I've kind of been toying around with for a while, and I've wanted to get going for a while, and this could not be a perfect time for it. Everyone should be familiar with the photographer Rory O'Donnell.
I don't know who he is. I joke. Hey, Rory.
Rory's from Donegal. He's a fantastic photographer. I met him last year, an absolute gentleman, and I can't wait to meet him this July when we go up to Donegal to shoot. But Rory's a very talented photographer. He's also a very... I'll get you an invite, don't worry. He's also a very insightful man. Very, very insightful man. And we often have lengthy conversations on WhatsApp about all things photography, both shooting and both, I don't know, theoretical and psychological and all this through voice notes. And I'm like, God, I must get a section for the podcast. I'm like, what do we call it? And he always says that he rambles. So the new segment of the podcast...
Can I guess what it's called?
Yes.
Rory Stories. Rory's Roundabout.
No.
I know. Rory's Tall Tales. No, that doesn't work.
Just about to introduce like a lovely new section and like give Rory O'Donnell, who's a great photographer and a great man, like the respect he deserves. And Sean has given him a fantastic intro there.
I thought that,
and he's just about to say the name of this new segment.
What is it, Ronan?
With Rory, who is so sound to take time out of his day and do this for us and send on a really good clip for the listeners to listen to.
Thanks, Rory.
Kevin, what did you do?
Made it better.
You made it worse.
Shut up, your face.
Tenfold worse. You destroyed the new segment. We might as well not even do it now.
Sorry. Will we just scrap the whole episode?
Yeah, we'll skip it.
Apologise to Rory. Sorry, Rory.
That's grand.
On behalf of myself and Sean, we don't condone Kevin's behaviour.
Rory doesn't. Rory doesn't mind. Rory's happy.
I'll just mute Kevin, will I?
Yes.
Just take his mic off him there. Is he muted?
Yeah,
he is muted. Okay.
I'm back.
No, in all seriousness, Rory. Look, see, Kevin, I was going so well there. I was honestly in such a state of flow. Like,
I know.
That was probably the most coherent and clear I've ever spoken in this podcast.
It actually was, yeah.
I had to take
wasn't
it down
it like, it was just, I think that was the best, like, okay. So, the new section is called Rory's Rambles. Okay, for obvious reasons.
I should have guessed that.
And in the first topic of the first ever Rory's Rambles, we are talking about photographers' self-esteem and why photographers, particularly it seems Irish photographers, have such low self-esteem when they're so talented. Yes, Ronan.
Is this inspired by me?
Everything's inspired by you.
Yeah. Now, remember last week's episode that I was like, no, stop, I can't take a compliment. It's a really interesting topic because,
prime example. It came up in a discussion there, and we were kind of like, there was a couple of photographers saying, I'm okay, like, we're incredibly talented photographers. So we were like, what is this about? And Rory just texts, he's like, I'm on it. He texts me, and I was like, "Oh, baby, here it comes." And I've got voice notes saved from Rory from months back, which I'll be using in this segment. I'll get him to build on it because he has his audio set up and everything now. So what's going to happen now, listeners, is for the next 15 minutes, you are going to hear Rory digesting this topic and offering some fantastic, number one, advice. Okay, so this is what I love about this segment. Rory doesn't only just highlight an issue or a problem. He offers some advice, which is rare because often we just highlight problems and no one gives a solution.
Yeah, like he's not just preaching, like he's kind of saying,
exactly,
this is it, and here's how it can help you. So
he's almost counter-arguing himself at times because he wants to try and come across like that. He's not kind of, I suppose, not dictating anything. He's just, this is the information, this is what you should do, which is absolutely fantastic. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see the slides will come up with a certain chart that he refers to, which will help illustrate the point at hand. So it's the Dunning-Kruger thought process is what we're going to, some of you might have heard of that before, but I'm not going to spoil anything for you. You're now going to hear Rory's subtle Donegal tones, okay?
Gorgeous.
Any Americans listening to this, you think my accent is good? Wait till you hear this. Unbelievable. So, enjoy Rory's rambles.
Hey guys, Sean, Ronan, Kevin, thanks for having me. Very good for letting me come on and have a bit of a ramble here. So I suppose something came up during the week that we were talking about in WhatsApp, and it was in around about, I suppose, Irish photographers, and I suppose maybe around the topic of, how would I say, it's kind of maybe a low self-esteem or a low opinion of their own self-worth as a photographer. And I was just commenting that it's something that's kind of very common and can be seen quite a bit. Whereas, like, you know, we would look at someone and think that their work is quite good, but when you speak to them, they would kind of say otherwise. And we were kind of giving out kind of various thoughts about why this is, and I suppose one of the things that could be cultural. It's probably a bit of an Irish thing to kind of play down any compliments as such. But the thing that I brought up was a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It was something I heard spoken about first by Canadian clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson, and he mentioned this effect and how it plays out. Now, it applies to every skill or trade that somebody tries to learn, not alone just photography, but it can be applied to photography and photographers, and that's what I kind of propose, that maybe one of the things that contributes to this kind of bit of a lull in a photographer's progression. For those listening, I'll give an example of what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. For anybody watching this on YouTube, hopefully it's up on the screen. It'll make a lot more sense to you all, and you can actually see it. And once you see it, it's clear what it's about. But for those that are listening on the podcast, firstly, go over to YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you're not already on YouTube, the guys that do the podcast have it there. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, smash that button, ring the bell, whatever you need to do, but just get on it, okay? It's great to be able to see the guys as well as just hear them. But for those on the podcast listening, I'll give a very quick example on trying to describe this as best as I can. Kind of definition around the effect. It's a cognitive bias in which people believe that they're actually smarter or more capable than they really are, particularly at the outset or the start of their time or progression within a certain trade or skill. So if you could imagine on a graph on an axis, your vertical axis is your confidence and your horizontal axis is your experience. So it starts out that as you get into something new, your experience, your time in it, your learning is actually very little, but you learn a lot, or what you perceive to be a lot, in a short space of time, and your confidence goes up through the roof, and it might be bolstered by people around you telling you that you're fantastic at what you're doing and you really have an eye for it and it suits you, and it's something you should pursue. So your confidence levels peak at the very beginning sharply, really high. And then what happens is you start to gain more experience and more knowledge around your craft. And as you do, your confidence starts to drop down and gets a little bit lower. And you just go into this kind of thaw as such, kind of a dip in around the middle where you come down, and what do we call the valley of despair. And then if you stick with it, as your experience grows and you get more knowledgeable, you kind of start to come up and become more enlightened within your trade and your skill, and your confidence level starts to rise up. And the end result would be you come to a level of mastery within your craft where you've got a lot of experience and your confidence is now at its peak, but it's not as high as the peak, let's say at the beginning. For example, let's say it would be 90%. Your peak is now at a bit of a more humble, realistic max confidence, and that's probably maybe around about 65-70%. So if you try to visualize it, it peaks up very rapidly at the start, drops down, and then gradually takes an upwards curve. That's a quick example of, or I hope a good description of it. So how do we see this as photographers or in photography? I suppose we see it, if I try to give a very generalized example, you see people starting out, maybe they're shooting everything on a phone and they get their first camera, and all of a sudden, they're watermarking their images, they're calling themselves a photographer at the end of their name or something like that. Does that mean you're a photographer? No. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. No. Let me give a different example, okay? Let's come out of photography, I suppose, for a minute. Take somebody that buys a toolbox and hangs out in a garage for an hour every week. Can they call themselves a mechanic? I would say no. I think most people would agree with that. You wouldn't just leave your car into that type of a person. You would like to know that if someone's going to call themselves a mechanic, that they've at least had some type of training or apprenticeship, or went and studied some kind of mechanical engineering or something at least. You would like to think that they've have a general grasp on their trade in order to kind of justify kind of giving themselves the title. So okay, so what can we do, or how do we deal with this? And like I said, you get this peak at the start, and I suppose I've been there myself, and many other photographers I know are the same. You think everything's good because you don't know what you don't know, and there's actually a lot that you don't know. It's like the unknown. So you start speaking to other photographers, or you're maybe online or on group chats, and somebody references something and you realize, okay, I don't know anything about that. So then you're off on YouTube or Google or whatever, and you're reading up about stuff, and then the more you read about it, the more you find out, the more you don't know. And this is where you kind of come into this valley of despair where you drop down, because you now can have this bit of a knock that the unknown is kind of starting to become known to you, and you just realize that there's so much that's out there, and then you really realize how little you know, and it kind of frightens you. And it can be it can be like, as to say, the valley of despair, where you see people just kind of, I don't want to say they give up, but they kind of lose the love for photography and for going out there, and they mightn't shoot for months or whatever. And I've spoken to guys like that, and I ask, how are you getting on? Are you shooting much these days? And they just say, no, I just can't really find, the love for it. It's like, they see nice sunsets or something, they're not really in the mood for it and all. And it can be a bit of a hard place to get out of. So what are the options? What can you do? So I thought about this, because I've genuinely tried to encourage anybody that I speak to, if they're kind of going through a bit of a difficult time with photography, and I try to have an honest think about it myself as to what could be done. And so I suppose I have a few solutions. If it's any good to anybody, maybe you've already thought about this, maybe you've gone through some of these, but I'm just going to throw it out there if it's of any help to anyone. I suppose the first option I'm just going to say would be studying in third level education. You could go off to college, study photography. I don't know much about it, and I don't know how much of a value that really is, but it is one option. I just wanted to say that. It's one I have no experience in. I've never done it, and so I can't justify its value. Of course, it would cost a lot of money and time and effort. Whether or not it's that beneficial, I don't know. That's a topic maybe for another discussion with somebody else who has gone through that process. But for me, I don't know, so I can't really comment on its overall value. So the options I do have, and which personally have worked well for me, the first one I would say is workshops. If you're starting out, workshops they're worth the money spent on them. Like I said, think about it this way. If you go to college, you spend thousands, maybe tens of thousands. So a workshop is a lot more targeted, and it's a smaller group, and it's one-on-one, and I would highly recommend getting on workshops that cover a genre that you want to progress in. So whether it's studio work or landscape, whatever it may be, look for workshops, and I would highly recommend doing them. I know, for example, there's one of the guys here in the podcast, I know Sean has actually started up his own workshops, and want to wish him the best of luck in that. And anybody seriously looking to get into landscape photography would do well to reach out to him and try and get one booked. There's a bit of a plug for you, Sean. But seriously, no, workshops are good. I did a few, and I realised in my own abilities that they took a huge leap forward immediately after partaking in those workshops, so they're definitely worth their money. I would say when you're there, try and get one that's a small group size. I would say 4 or less if possible, so you have more time with the instructor. Take a notepad, pen, or get a voice memo, record stuff on your phone, ask plenty of questions. That's what they're there for. That's what you're paying for. Ask and ask away. Don't mind how stupid you think it is. Ask the question. You get out what you put into workshops. So definitely, I would say if you're ever thinking about one, it's worth it. I suppose another option I would say is to look for critique. Again, the guys here in the Podcast have the Facebook group, and join something like that where you can get honest feedback, and I suppose be open to whatever people say. You might not like what you hear, and for guys giving critique, be kind too, because we're all starting somewhere, and it might be a little bit hard if you're emotionally invested in your image, and then somebody comes along and just kind of tears it to shreds. So yeah, so be gentle in that too, and be honest about it. And for the guys that are receiving the feedback, take it honestly and try and learn from it. It can be hard, but it's good, and there's a good chance to kind of learn there. The other option, I suppose, for me, it's one that's worked extremely well for me personally, and I don't know if many people do it or have thought about it, and that's to shoot with photographers that are better than you. I've done this, and I still do it to this day. There's 3 photographers that I would shoot with on a regular basis, and each of those have skills that are far superior to my own in areas that I'm weak in, and from each of them I learn something from them. A little bit rubs off on you. Seeing what they're doing drives you forward. So for example, I shoot with Brian McGuire quite a bit, and he's got a fantastic eye for composition. It's crazy. Like, both of us can be at the same location with the same camera, more or less the exact same camera, an Fuji X-T3 and an X-T4, the exact same lens, tripods, same scene, same condition. So we both have the equal opportunity to get a good shot, and I'll see his shot and I'll be like, how did I not see that? How did I not visualize that shot in my mind first? And at times I'll walk over and I'll just ask him, what are you shooting? How do you have it framed up? And he's very good. He'll talk me through it. He'll say, okay, I saw this rock and there's a stream here. There's that tree in the midground, and then there's the mountains in the background. I'm just getting this to build up to lead a little line into the scene. And once he explains it, it's perfectly clear. So, something like that really helps. So I would say, yeah, shoot with people that are better than you. Michael Burns, another guy I shoot with, and he's fantastic technically and on Photoshop, and will spend hours and just building up layers, slow, steady. And in terms of post-production, it's somewhere that I don't know if it's not, I don't have the patience or I don't have the skills, or maybe it's a bit of both. But it's an area that I'm lacking in. And, again, he's always very helpful to share any tutorials or guides that he has or that he put together himself on how he actually develops the final image. And Dermot Sweeney's another guy who is just fantastic at coming up with an idea in his head, a concept, and he will just keep at it non-stop until he gets the shot he wants. I suppose it's that perseverance and determination to have a preconceived idea in your mind and then developing it into the final image. Whereas I suppose I would find myself, or consider myself, weak there, in that I kind of go out and just go shooting random until I kind of find something that's starting to work, and then I hone in on it. But I just don't have that strong idea in my mind beforehand, and it's again another skill I'm looking to develop. So to take that back in, I would kind of say I'm hopefully on that kind of rise out of the valley of despair, because I suppose one of the big things is once you become aware of what you don't know, it like I said, is frightening, because you realize there's a lot you don't know in photography, but it's also good because then you know what you need to know. So you've got now an area to focus on, and you can start chipping away by it. So for those three examples, I would say is a way out of that kind of bit of a rut and of a bit of despair. If you're just feeling that you've kind of hit a place where just the interest has been lost, even look at other genres of photography, maybe try something a little bit different, try pushing your comfort level. If you're always shooting landscapes, get a friend, maybe try and do a little bit of portraiture or something like that. It'll be very frustrating, but at least just keep trying to kind of maybe push yourself a little bit and kind of work yourself out of that rut. But for those three examples, I would say for anyone that's kind of going through that wants to kind of improve and try and get more experience in and get their confidence back up, I would say definitely look at workshops, look at getting critique from like Facebook, or if you can find a photographer that's willing to be like a mentor to you, even better, that you can work one-on-one with, that's fantastic if you're able to do that. And I said the other option is try and get a network, a group of photographers around you. And like I said, if you shoot with people that are better than you, that will rub off on you. It'll force you to kind of up your game, and it'll really kind of push you along. So that's the options that I have. I would hope helps some of your listeners. And thanks guys for letting me come on here and having a bit of a ramble, and congratulations on just going over the year there, and keep up the good work guys, and chat to you soon.
I'm ready to speak about my feelings. This topic, firstly, Rory, thanks a mil. Secondly, Rory, I hate you. Where was my workshop plug? Why does Sean get the workshop plug? What's going on there?
Yeah, or me.
This subject this subject really resonates with me, and like I've gone all emo now, because for those on the video, I've lived it, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I was also like hyper aware of it when I started out in photography, because I used to go around and be like, I'm top of the game, and like while I had growing confidence in my own ability, I used to I still kind of do sometimes. I put on this persona of I'm deadly, do you know what I mean? But it's all deep down, it's all an act. It's
all a facade,
superficial,
fugazi.
Yeah, but when you said facade, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
I then actually kind of came into a space where I was like hyper confident in my own ability, because I was like, I can shoot whatever and just take the raw files out and process them. And that was to my detriment. I've spoke about it on the podcast before. It's it crippled me and my progression, and that was all then the Dunning-Kruger effect. You then fall into that kind of the valley of pain and suffering and misery.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
It is an essential part of the process, though, I think.
Yeah,
and that, yes. And like I'm woeful at taking a compliment, so hence the emo fringe.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of. Once again, I can only maybe speak for myself, but like I definitely fell into that as well. Started off, I thought I was like really, really good for what it was. Realized I actually wasn't at all. Like if you look back at them now, it's like they're shocking. But I thought they were class, and I was like, this is amazing. I don't even need to learn stuff. Like I'm there. And then yeah, I kind of just, was like, okay, I actually know nothing about this. And then now I am at the stage where like, yeah, I am pretty good. But I know my limitations still as well, and I know that there's definitely more to go. So like, spot on.
Did either of you two, out of curiosity, kind of when you're in that first phase of the Dunning-Kruger chart that everyone was seeing on the video there, did you ever feel like, that's it, I've learned it all, like there's nothing more I can do to improve? Did you hit a peak where it was like, you're early on in your photography now, where you're like, there's no more I can do? And then you kind of learn about bracketing or, depth of field or something, or HDR margin. You learn something, then it's suddenly like, oh, I know nothing. Like, did that happen to either of you?
So before I learned any, and I mean any of like the technicalities of photography, as in when I was just taking snaps for the sake of taking snaps, I thought I was class. And then when you start learning even small bits, you're like, holy God, like, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Smallest things, you're like, what the heck? Then you're literally like, I know nothing at all.
Yeah. It happened. So like, it happened for a very brief moment of time early on in my photography, because I started shooting and I started kind of posting and I started like, I'm doing okay here, like, and then I started seeing these incredible landscape images online, and I was like, oh right, okay, that's a lake with mountains. Okay, I'm gonna do that. And I went and shot it, and it looks nothing like it. And even though I shot in good conditions, like, it's like, what's going on here? Like, little did I know that those images are blended and focal blended and all this stuff. But mainly exposure blending, I was like, okay, whoa, there's an awful lot I don't know here. And then I started delving more into it and chat to more and more people, and they were like, oh, do you do this? I'm like, what's that? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, there's an awful lot I don't know here. So for those of you that are watching the video, that's the dip in the chart that Rory was talking about there in the the Dunning-Kruger thought process. So it's like, what is it? I'll never understand this. That's the kind of part you're at. So it's like, it's more complicated, I thought. And the interesting thing is that, like, even though your confidence is getting lower, you're getting more and more experience. So it's almost counterintuitive, like, because you think like the more confident you are in something, the more experience you have. But at the very start of the chart, like, you're really high in confidence, even though you've such little experience. It's almost like the ignorance is bliss, like, isn't it?
Yes,
it's kind of like that.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And do you know what I think is really cool? Like, I can apply like the Dunning-Kruger to even my editing, not even just photography, right? Because I thought, like, Lightroom, I am the bee's knees. I can do everything in Lightroom. Like, so I know Lightroom inside now. I've used it for years. I know almost everything to do it, and I can edit a photo quite well in Lightroom. But then when I started doing Photoshop, I knew nothing. So I went right back down to like that part. And now, like, slowly getting back, it is slowly getting up there. But like, so the thing about this isn't just about photography. This is any skill or anything like that, like any pastime, anything like that. Like, I remember years ago I was doing some form of martial arts, and I remember thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be class at this, like, this is gonna be amazing, and then like I just wasn't, and then only after a while you start to get better, you know what I mean?
Not picture you doing martial arts. Soundest lad, like.
It was just a fitness thing more so than anything, but it's funny, like,
sorry, Kev, go on.
No, you're right. It applies to like all walks of life. So it's just, even if you're listening to this and okay, you're a photographer, but you have other, hobbies, interests, skills, think about it with them as well, because more than likely not, they'll fit into that as well, which is kind of cool.
It's kind of like that happened to me when I got the tracker. Like, I had a clue about, I didn't know much about constellations, but aligning anything with Polaris, how do I focus? Like, is all still the same? So it brought me, do you know what? It humbles you. It does humble you, which it's not a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not a whole bad thing once you don't leave the kind of low self-esteem part get to you, do you know? But I kind of want to delve a small bit more into what Rory said specifically. I really liked the analogy about the mechanic in terms of like the photographers.
Loved it.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
loved it.
And this is kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek because, look, let's call a spade a spade. A lot of people call themselves photographers nowadays because
a spade is a spade.
That's my favorite saying of all time, by the way.
Man, I say that saying at least 10 times a week.
Love it, like
love it. So let's call a spade here.
This is the crack.
Black and white, okay? And you know me, you know, I'm as subtle as a brick, okay?
Sean is as blunt as a brick to the face.
Yeah. I am, like, and you know what, like, everyone that calls themselves, or everyone that has a camera now, generally calls themselves a photographer, okay? And maybe as a little overarching term, okay, are they take photos, grand, but, I mean, I changed the tire on my car today, I can't call myself a mechanic, like, do you know what I mean? So, like, the problem is it's probably photography is so accessible now, like, you know, it's so accessible. So, to delve off a small bit, like, when can you start to justify yourself?
Can I just make another analogy on top of that analogy?
Yes, please do.
Can I make one as well then?
You changed the tire on your car and that doesn't make you a mechanic. You also stole pretty much Rory's analogy that he made in the clip. So that doesn't make you a linguist.
Oh, nice.
That's all I wanted to say. Thanks,
wow.
guys. Thanks for listening. See you next Tuesday.
Well, I was referring to, I did say I want to specifically refer to Rory's message, so.
I'm only messing. I'm
not playing.
Ignore me. I'm not with it today. Ignore me.
I put a twirl back on the shelf in Centra. Does that make me a Centra staff member?
No, it doesn't. There you go.
It doesn't. So, that's a great one. Yeah.
That's, wow. Do you know what, Kev? I was going to say, Kev, you can make an analogy if it's a good one, but like I didn't even have to say that. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, flawless.
But anyway,
flawless.
When can you begin to justify yourself then as a photographer? And this comes back to the self-esteem thing, like, do you know what I mean? When can you start to say, right, I am a photographer? Is it when you start getting paid to do it? Is it when you start selling prints? Is it when you have a certain amount of followers on social media?
Liam Murphy Picks had this up in his stories a while back. And he kind of framed it from, when do you stop being a beginner and become an amateur to become a pro? And I went to reply to him, and as I was replying to it, I was like, actually, hang on. I need to think about this question. And it's pretty much the same thing you've said there, Sean. It's like an amateur is someone with no experience whatsoever. Sorry, a beginner is someone with no experience whatsoever. And they're starting out on their journey. With the Dunning-Kruger effect, quite often, when you move from beginner to amateur, that's your first peak on that chart. That's when your confidence skyrockets, because suddenly you don't want to be known as a beginner. You're an amateur now.
Yes.
But you think your skill is right up there. Like, it's that transitional phase then from amateur, as you go down and learn your lesson and get more competent while getting less confident. It's that counterintuitive process. When you hit the point where your competency is enough, and this is me speaking from experience from starting my business. Like, I had done a handful of weddings along the way, and I'd made mistakes on them, and like I kind of was figuring it out as I go, working as a second shooter and stuff like that. When I was confident enough to start a business and do it myself, I still wasn't confident enough to call myself like a professional photographer.
Yeah.
But it's then as you start working in it and people start, like, you get feedback on your work, you have a confidence in your competency, as weird as that sounds. Yeah. And then you get a confidence in your product, which in this case, being photographers, is the actual finished product. Mm-hmm. So it's when those two both end up at the end of that scale, then you can kind of call yourself a photographer or a professional if you're getting paid or whatever. But I think that the interesting question on this is, like, is there a definitive scale of ability and confidence in that? Or does it all come down to the individual? Because I personally think it all comes down to, like, everyone has varying levels of confidence. Like, some people are introverted, some people are extroverted. It's all a spectrum. So, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think you could label it, basically.
No, I don't think there's a one definitive answer to this question. I do think, though, regardless of how introverted you are, if you have the ability, people will tell you that you're a good photographer.
Yeah.
And no matter how poor you are at taking compliments, if enough people start telling you that you're an excellent photographer, then you're kind of like, okay, it starts to twig like, okay,
maybe there's something.
Maybe there's something here, like.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at like now. Like, I know I'm a good photographer, and I've no problem saying that because I work very hard at it. I've said this before, so I'm confident in my ability as a photographer. But that's because an awful lot of people have told me that I'm a good photographer and I've sold images. So that's where I'm at now. If now maybe you can even look at your own work, and I know comparison isn't often healthy, but if you compare your own work with certain other photographers that have a status recognition and you think you're on the same level, like you said, yeah, it looks good, well then maybe you can start believing in yourself as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But why are we so poor at taking compliments ourselves? Like, why is self-esteem is totally off the cuff here? I think it's because Irish people feel like that they're going to sound cocky or arrogant if they say that they're good or something.
Do you know, it's funny. I didn't message, I posted Mark Maguire's photo to my story the other day.
Which one?
Because it was an absolute banger.
Can we take one moment to just appreciate how good Mark Maguire is as a photographer?
Yes,
correct. This is precisely my point now.
Dear God.
I threw Mark's shot up on my story, and because it was a belter, it was gorgeous. And then he messaged back saying like, oh, thanks, man. And I was like, oh, it's class. You've everything lined up perfect, like, and everything fell into place. Great capture, like. And he wrote back, pure luck. And I was just like, oh, yeah, nothing to do with like you seeing the composition, lining up the camera and pressing the button. Like, it's
being there at the right time intentionally.
Mark replied, sorry, I couldn't say anything else because I'm Irish. And it's like, yes, that is the mentality. Like,
exactly. Was it the Kildangan stud shot? The one with the house, Kildangan, and the branches top and bottom.
No, it was the rapeseed tree.
The rapeseed field with the tractor tracks through the field leading up to the tree, and
that was phenomenal. But his Kildangan stud shot, like you definitely saw it, like the one with the branches up top, the house in the middle, and he was talking. He was telling me about it, like he's like, Joe, it's focus, it's exposure blend and stuff, like, and he said, "Oh, sure, I wouldn't be anywhere without you." I said, "Man," I literally told you about exposure blending. That's all I done. I told Mark Maguire, you have to get on this exposure blending and download Royer Pro. And I said, that's all I done. I didn't do any Zoom lessons with him. I think I sent him a few videos and that's it. And the man has and he keeps coming back to saying, oh, but you're only, I was like, man, do not. It's like, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yes.
So he is he's absolutely top class. But there you go, Ronan, like that wasn't pure luck. He saw the composition. He saw the tree in the field firstly because he was telling a story and he knew that'd be a good shot. He positioned himself perfectly. So he went away and underneath and said, okay, the sun will be setting behind that. Another skill. Yeah. He composed it perfectly. He processed it perfectly. So there was nothing lucky about that.
No, I said the exact same thing to him as well, and he said something along the lines of, sure, everyone gets lucky every once in a while, or something, something quite like flippant. I was like, no, that's not right at all. I was like, it wasn't luck.
Yeah.
No. And Mark, I'm sure if you're listening, you're probably going to be embarrassed, but we don't care because you deserve it. Like, literally, when he was on the podcast, Sean, you said he was one of Ireland's like up and coming landscape photographers.
Yes, correct.
Safe to say, man has arrived with style. He's just.
I should have backed that actually.
He's not going to listen to this episode now because of all the lovely things we're saying about him.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to tell him because he's a busy man. So I'm going to tell him listen to this episode.
Well, he is. If you don't follow him, by the way, folks, it's Mark_Maguire__.
Yeah, the double underscores.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get Mark rinsed now, and for him to be the example. I was just saying it. But if you look at Mark's journey in photography so far and the improvements he's showing now, like, and the learning luminosity masking and blending and all that, which he's done himself, as you point out, Sean.
Yes.
He was just given the knowledge.
Yes.
But the confidence isn't there at the minute. So he's kind of in the middle of that Dunning-Kruger scale. So when the confidence catches up with the competency, then Mark will be top tier photographer.
No stopping him. Like,
the only thing, no stopping him. Yeah, the only thing holding him back though at the minute is that scale and the confidence. When you begin to get that self-confidence and believe in yourself, because the competency is there, it's the confidence that has to then push you up to the next level.
Okay, so with that
sorry, Mark.
With that being said, right, that's a very interesting point. So, how the listener is now thinking, okay, how do we start to build that confidence, right? And for me, confidence is when you're so totally sure in your head that you're doing the right thing. Okay? So a lot of the time in photography, I think you actually don't know if you're doing the right thing or not. You're kind of just, you could possibly be just messing around. I'm not saying Mark is doing it. He definitely knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But like, let's say for me, if someone said to me, are you confident to drive down to the shop? Yes, I am. I've been driving for over 10 years. I know how to drive a car. I'm perfectly safe driving a car. I'm so comfortable driving a car. I know exactly what to do. Okay, so that's confidence, right? So how can you start building on that confidence? And this is where Rory has come in with another couple of nuggets of knowledge, because he's recommended a couple of things, right? And these things, I think, are what's going to build your confidence, because you're actually building knowledge as a photographer. And knowledge is confidence, okay? I know that as a teacher, if I go into a class not totally sure on a topic, okay, and look, that's what happens, okay? If everyone thinks teachers know everything, it's a lie. I still have to study, okay? I have to study topics before I go into a class, because we can't not possibly know everything. Yeah. So I study topics before I go into class, because I'm a teacher. I have to, like, and if I don't know my subject knowledge, then I can't be confident to myself. So in terms of photography, Rory suggests you could go to college or do a third level degree in photography. Now that could be a whole separate podcast, because I haven't done that. I don't think any of us here have done degrees.
I briefly did what was it called back in the day? VTAC level 5?
Yeah, correct.
6 or one of them. Yeah, I briefly did one of them, and I don't recommend them. So we will cover that in the future.
Yeah. So you could possibly do that. Workshops that Rory gave me a blatant plug. So he did at my workshops. Thanks, Rory. Ronan also does. Ronan is always staring intently to the camera. Ronan also does workshops, for the listeners who don't know. But so yeah, a workshop definitely. I mean, you have someone there live with you to ask questions of and bounce questions off of, which will build your knowledge as a photographer. The third one. I love this one, lads. Shoot with a photographer who is better than you.
Yep.
That is just that's a life advice. Do you know what? Play football with a player that's better than you. Like, sorry, totally off topic again. Quentin Tarantino. I listened to an interview with Quentin Tarantino one time.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I know. This is such a good analogy. It's so totally off the topic, but it's actually not off the topic. So he was talking to a guy one time, and he said, I want to win a 100-meter race. Okay, your man was perfect. So your man was like, cool, okay, so how do you do that? Well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to train and I'm going to, yeah. He's like, no, wrong. He's like, you're going to run 100-meter races with athletes that are way faster and way better than you. Your man was like, but then I'm not going to win. I'm going to lose, like, do you know what I mean? I'm going to have low self-esteem and I'm just going to keep, he's like, you will not. He said, just do it. Your man kept running, he kept losing, but he started getting quicker. Whereas the guy who kept running at his own level did not. And he still didn't win a race, but he didn't get any faster.
Yeah.
So shoot with photographers who are better than you.
Makes total sense.
Sit on their shoulder. Like, literally, like, oh, what are you shooting there? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
don't actually sit on their shoulder, because you might
hurt them. Yeah. But, do you know what I mean? It makes so much sense. Like, you can't improve, or you can't reach higher to something that isn't above you. Wow. Yeah. Jesus, lads,
that's gorgeous.
I'm doing well tonight.
I actually have experience of this firsthand. When I first started, we set up a group of photographers, and the lovely Keith Walsh was one of them. It's all well and good when you say something like shoot with other people who are better than you and all that, but I can't describe it when you go out and you actually shoot with other photographers, like, and they don't have to be leagues ahead of you, but just even photographers on your own level who you know are passionate, because then you'll all strive to get better.
Yes.
But your energies buzz off each other, and you'd be amazed. Like, you start, there's some part of all of us that wants to be the best. Everyone is a little bit competitive, and that it's kind of, it's a healthy best. Like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause. Pokemon, gotta get them. It's my dream. Like, we planned that. What was I saying? Yeah, there's nothing wrong in life with a bit of healthy competition, and it kind of naturally comes when you get out with like-minded people, because everyone is kind of like, I don't want to get the worst shot here, and like photography is subjective. It all comes down to the individual, so everyone tries that bit harder. You just have good time doing it, positivity flows, and it's like, I can't describe how beneficial it is.
Sure, Ronan, if you look at the days that I've been shooting with you, which hasn't been that many considering we live very close to each other.
Yeah.
But the days that...
like twice or something.
Yeah, 3 times, I think. But like, I mean, it's always more fun, first and foremost. Like, that's the most important part. Like, you're actually having a much more enjoyable time because you're not on your own, which is great, especially because I don't like being on my own ever. You learn, you know, you learn more, you see different things. I mean, I remember, for example, we went to Vartry Reservoir and I stole your composition. So then you had to change your composition and you got a better shot.
Yeah.
Than you would have had I not have stolen literally your tripod space. Like, I put my tripod in front of your tripod.
You put your tripod in front of my camera. I remember it well. Yeah.
I
threw that up on the tripod story.
But
Can I make an observation on this, actually?
Uh-oh.
Remember the Wicklow calendar day?
Yes.
If you go back to the Wicklow calendar page and watch those stories, at the start of that day, you were kind of like, what do I shoot? What do I do? You were a bit nervous. And by the time we got to Blessington, you were jumping into ditches, you were running around, you had the camera out looking for compositions, like literally just being out for one full day together.
Oh yeah.
And I was the same. Like, I was kind of like, I probably won't shoot that. And by the end of it, it was like, I'm going to shoot whatever I think is good. Like, and throughout the day, as we spent time together, we grew. And we ended up with Blessington. We got some lovely shots in the end of it, actually.
So it was a great day. But yeah, look, go shooting with everyone. I mean, people on your level, people a level or two above you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just go shooting with people.
To throw another little nugget in with that as well, it's actually quite good for your self-esteem if you have people with you that are asking you questions, because it shows that they value your feedback, like, and they value your input, you know.
I literally said, Sean, before the episode started recording, I think before you jumped on, I was like, isn't it class that people ask us for advice or ask us questions?
So humbling.
And Rowan was like, it's possibly the best part of being a podcast host.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love it. I at times in as well, I'm like, what are you asking me for? And then I'm like, actually, because I have the knowledge, I know what, I know what he wants or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really humbling. But it is, as you said, for your self-esteem, it's absolutely whopper.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And like, even like on Instagram and people asking you questions, and just it's fantastic. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I have a workshop tomorrow evening, and one of the clients texted me, I can't wait. Like, I have so many questions. I was like, I actually cannot wait for someone to ask me questions about photography. And do you know what? Another thing, I don't know everything. So there's a high chance they'll ask me something. I was like, okay, well, I don't know that, but I will find out for you. And
I'll ask Ronan.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, let's go. Just hold on there a second. I have to make a phone call. Yeah, hold on. It's like, what was it? Is that there was some episode of some show anyway, and they'd keep dipping out of the room to ask someone a question, and then keep coming back in then again. Class. Anyway, shoot with photographers were better than you. And the last one that Rory gave recommendation on, as he heard, was critique, and be open to critique. And I never threw a word said. Be open.
Can I just say?
Critique.
Yes.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry, it popped into my head there. I've always wanted to do a Kevin Hennessy interruption. You
did well. I was just going to say that was very Kevin Hennessy-esque. So well done.
Seeing as I have interrupted that, on the critique thing, our Facebook group, and like, we're obviously not just going to plug ourselves relentlessly on this podcast.
Yeah.
The Facebook group. What I love about it is the critique in our Facebook group is honest, raw, and unfiltered. But the responses to the critique are what I love. People take it on board. There's no malice or badness. When you ask for critique, you're going to get comments that are up and down and sway you. Just keep an open mind with it, because the Dunning-Kruger scale is based on confidence. So we just talked there for ages about going out and shooting with other people to get your confidence up. By the end of it, your competency is growing, and it's you have to get your confidence up there and build your confidence to get to the level you want to be at. So if you ask for critique, don't let it knock your confidence. Say to yourself, why did that hurt me? Why is that affecting me? What can I do to improve that? And the next time you ask for critique, you'll find you'll probably get a load of compliments or something, and suddenly that's pushing your confidence up. So turn it into a positive, and turn it into I was going to say a metaphor, not a metaphor. Turn it into a way to improve, basically.
Yeah. I'm still absolutely shocking when it comes to criticism, though. I don't like it.
There's a difference between criticism and critique, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Constructive feedback.
If it's constructive, delicious, well needed.
Yeah.
And in fairness to our group, the community page, no one's ever like, it's not, that's shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not just like people being mean or whatever. It's just, maybe you could try this. Like, it's always offering, an extra bit of advice, or, it's never just like, that looks bad. It's, okay, it's all right. It could, maybe if you try this, it might make it look better, so it is always very constructive and supportive, and good. Very good.
On that, another thing to note, if you ever post a photo online or whatever, and you haven't asked for constructive criticism or critique or any feedback, and someone offers up negative feedback, that is not a reflection on you. That is one of their own little inner wounds surfacing, and they're like, ha, I get to say this mean thing. So don't accept that kind of criticism or whatever. Just know that they're probably saying stuff mean because you're probably doing it better than they're capable of.
Yes.
And that's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
Correct
and right.
Look, I see, I love all this stuff. Like, I find all this stuff so fascinating. Like, I could honestly, it's just, there's so many things that will pop into my head. Like, you could have a week of episodes on this, like, or a month of episodes, I should say. I think Rory hit the nail on the head, like, do you know what I mean? And he offered such valuable advice, while not like sounding like he was giving out, or do you know what I mean? Like almost like a dictatorship. He offered those little nuggets of knowledge.
The sultry Donegal towns.
Donegal, it's so nice. And it's kind of, I think this is a topic that people are aware of, but they've never been able to kind of, put a finger on it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that makes sense now. Do you know, like, when they start thinking about when the Dunning-Kruger and like the little dip in confidence there. So I suppose just to finish off, like, do you know what I mean, this episode, we've talked about how, like, Rory's given those tips about how you can build your confidence. But like, for yourselves, like, do you think that you'll eventually be able to, like, let's say, here, that shot was savage. Do you know what I mean? Well done. Like, that's absolutely class.
To myself?
Like, no. Yeah, to yourself. Yeah, well, I think you can do that now already. But like, if someone else says it to you, like, would you be able to say, thanks very much? So, because even like when people say to me in person, like, geez, your photography is just, it's amazing. Like, you know, I'm like, actually, look, you know, this is exactly what I say. Actually, look, you know, I enjoy it. Like, it's nice to get out with the camera. Like, that's exactly what I say every single time.
Sure, look, and it's
sure, look.
Look. You know nice the story, out, like, the crack.
It's a great hobby to have. I always say that it's a great hobby to have.
Yeah, it's literally just anything other than like, thank you. I agree.
You're afraid to sound arrogant, like. Yeah. If you said, thanks, I know, it's a good shot.
Yeah, I know, I'm deadly.
Someone walks away like, he's a fucking prick. You know what I mean?
In a way, though, there's like...
Excuse my language, I'm sorry.
It's fine, we're all adults here.
That was Sandra on Diamond Hill, that wasn't Sean. As I think about this more and more, this Dunning-Kruger graph, and the end bit is when your confidence starts to go up again. Now, the way you were saying there, if someone says your photos are really good, and you're like, thanks, yeah. Remember we had Peter Hurley on, and Peter's like, he responds by being like, yeah, they are. I'm glad you appreciate it. And like, that's not arrogance, it's confidence. Yes. There's a difference between being arrogant and cocky to being confident in your own ability. Because Peter Hurley's also very, very humble, but he knows he's a very good photographer. So he's kind of a good example of where his competency and his confidence have met, and boom,
Perfect.
All right, what's it?
Shebang.
Shebang.
Yeah, that's in fairness, that's perfect because he is awesome. But he's put the work in to be awesome, so he knows that he's awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, if someone tells me my shot is good, I'll agree with them. I may not agree with them out loud, like, but obviously I wouldn't put it out there if I didn't like it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day as well. Excuse me. But most of the time it's just, thanks. Yeah, sure. It was, you know, you kind of just start off like, thanks. Yeah, it was. And you just go quieter. So you actually don't ever finish that sentence either. It's like, sure, you know, it's just, did it?
Do you know what I kind of do?
There's the bus.
I kind of do sometimes. I go, like when my mates say to me, like Daria used to always say to me, "Oh, your photo is great," and I'm like, "Of course it is. I took it." But like, that's a pure facade. Do you know?
Oh yeah, but I think everyone knows that.
Deflecting the thing. So there's maybe people could adopt that in a way because you get to be pure sarcastic and have the crack. Be like, yeah,
yes,
top of the game. Yeah, no, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're not accepting the compliment. That's what I do because I hate accepting compliments. I'm like, look.
Is that Daria? Is that Daria Fidgen, the equine photographer?
No, it's another Daria.
Oh,
but
shout out to Daria Fidgen, the equine photographer, who is the greatest equine photographer of our generation.
You heard it here first, even though she's a generation behind us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
because we're all out.
There you go.
Photography by Daria, by the way. If you want to check out that Instagram, sure, why not?
Yeah.
It's getting weird and creepy now, Kev.
Lads, that was a lovely episode, and I think
wasn't it?
It's something that if someone says to you that's a very, very good image, just say thank you. I'm really happy with myself.
That actually, in fairness, that's one I go with. You know that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because I think that kind of it's like, I'm happy with it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't sound. It's just like I'm happy with that shot. Pretty happy with that. Yeah. I had to go to a lot of effort to get it. So it's an Irish thing. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but I really do hope you've got some insight from this episode. And this is not the last. And this was the first episode of Rory's Rambles. I mean, I can't wait to hear what he has to say next or ramble about. You know yourself, Rory.
We just get him on to replace Kev. It'd be grand.
No, not happening.
Fun fact, we're nearly finished recording this episode and Kevin still hasn't listened to the clip.
I have listened to the clip. Listen to most of it anyway. 87%.
I can't believe you done that.
It's fine.
Jesus.
Rory, I listened to it all. Don't mind him.
I'm only messing.
He's only messing. I did.
Sure, it's like we literally listen to it in this podcast. So
yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
And on that bombshell, listeners, thank you very much for listening. As always, please check out this on YouTube because it's a bit more insightful when we see the video.
A bit more crack as well, I'd say, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Because you get this.
Look at this. Oh, Ronan, thank you for your antics as usual.
You're very welcome.
Kevin, thank you for turning up. Only messing, Kev. I love you, Kev.
This is respect your elders, all right?
Oh, it was Kev. You offered some lovely insights, as did you, Ronan.
I thought so.
I think Rory stole the show, but look.
Thank you. I'm quite happy with it.
There you go. You're learning. Oh God, listeners, stay safe. Chat you soon, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Love you. Bye.
Day.